Hey, I'm Jenny,
And I'm Hillary, and you can call us,
the Garden Tarts.
kissing lips and breaking hearts.
We have been bestest friends for over 25 years, and we love to talk you too.
We've had some super ridiculous adventures, and now this podcast, which is pretty much all opinion with a handful of facts thrown in.
Why a U2 podcast? Because as much as we love talking U2, we know you do too.
So sit down, grab a drink, and find us on Instagram and Twitter so we can chat. Hi, everyone.
Hey.
We are recording side A of the Joshua Tree today.
Yes, welcome.
Welcome to all of our old listeners and new listeners and people from all around the world.
Oh my gosh, we have so many new people. Should we say hi to some of them?
Please.
We need to say hi to Mexico City, Mexico.
Hi, Mexico.
Portugal. Hola. Portugal. New Zealand and Australia. It was great. We got Australia really recently. And then the other day I put on Twitter, I'm like, New Zealand, like, knock, knock. I think some stuff's going on. And like 10 minutes later, I looked at the stats and New Zealand popped up.
Which, if you're listening to this out of context, you two are currently on tour, touring the Joshua Tree. Good, timely recording for us for this.
And they just finished New Zealand.
Yeah, and they're heading to Australia in the next day or something like that.
Yep. We got Tokyo, Japan, Belfast, Northern Ireland, Columbus, Ohio. Feeling proud about my Ohio people. Colorado Springs, Colorado. We've got people in Scotland and Colombia and Brazil. Oh my gosh.
It's
so
nuts.
Amazing. It is nuts. We're so excited.
And thank you for listening, because we kind of started this off just for us. And
I know it's gotten just even more fun.
But this is just for our own entertainment. We didn't really think that I didn't think this many people would listen.
We just really want an excuse to talk more.
Yeah, we did.
About U2 stuff.
Yeah, we did. So on my US wish list, I would like, by our next podcast, to have a listener from Maryland.
Okay.
Because we don't have that yet. And what country do we need? Can you think of a good country that...
What about Sweden? We don't have Sweden yet.
Let's go for that then.
Okay.
Every other time we've had a wish list, we've gotten it.
Yeah.
So
the state of Maryland and the entire country of Sweden.
Yeah.
We look forward to hearing from you.
Yes.
Awesome. Well, we decided to break this monster of an album up into two eps, side A and side B, so that you will not lose years listening to us.
Right.
And we will not lose years creating this. So I think we should really
we will in total. We're just not going to lose that much time in one sitting.
No, yes.
It'll still be the same amount of time, but
it'll be more tolerable for everyone, we hope.
So I have some fun facts. Can we start off there?
Yeah, do you want to first tell me what you're drinking?
Oh, yes, I do. Yeah. I am drinking Bailey's salted caramel on the rocks, which is just okay.
Yeah. You just got to get through the bottle.
Yeah. I'm almost done. I think if I had poured another little half a glass, I would have been okay. But
there you go.
Almost done. What are you drinking?
I have Jameson Irish whiskey, the Black Barrel, which is charred for a rich, smooth taste. I could be a spokesperson.
I know. This episode is not brought to you from Jameson because we have no sponsors, but
they're getting so good. I hadn't had this right before, and the bottle's half gone, and I'm really hoping that my husband is drinking some of it, because otherwise It's going faster than I anticipated.
And now your kids.
It's not my kids. Not my kids. I know that much. Not
Yeah.
yet, anyway.
No.
Ooh. Well, let's dive into this Joshua Tree. You've got fun stats for us?
Yeah, I do. It was recorded between January 1986 and January 1987, which is a crazy long amount of time compared to every other album that they've recorded. But
They did have
in
some
the
breaks in there.
they did, because they did the Conspiracy of Hope tour,
Yeah.
and which, if you want to know more about, listen to our last podcast.
The good stuff.
Good stuff. It was recorded in in Dublin at STS Studio at Danesmoat House, which is it was rented, but later Adam bought the house, and that's his residence. It's like a castle.
Yeah. Oh, I had read that it was at Adam's house, but maybe they didn't get it. Maybe the
The
quotes I was reading were referring to it like in hindsight.
Well, I read that Edge and his wife were looking for a house, and that was one of the homes that was for sale, and
Hmm.
they liked it, but they didn't think it was right for them. But they got the owners to rent it to the band to
Nice.
do some preliminary, songwriting and recording some tracks. And then at some point after that, Adam bought the house.
Gotcha.
And the story goes that the bottom of the hill or something is a boarding school that he once got kicked out of. So how fitting is that the boarding
Up.
schools or whatever, the school he went to was like, get out. You're not good enough. And then he bought the house on the hill that overlooks them. So
That's awesome. I had not
yeah.
heard that.
Then the next place they recorded was Mel Beach, which I think was where Larry was living at the
Okay.
time. Somebody was living there, either.
They did do some stuff at Edge's home, but I
So
don't
the
know the
thing
name
that
or
I read
where.
was that Edge wrote, and I have a little clip about that. I have a little bit about that later, but but for some reason I think it was Larry's, but
Okay.
it was a home, somebody's home. And then the last part of the recording was at Windmill Lane, which
Finished it up.
are old, stomping grounds. It was released on March 9th, 1987. There were 5 singles, With or Without You. That was released on March 21st, 87. I still found one Looking For, May 25th, 87. Where the Streets Have No Name, August 7th, 87. In God's Country, November 16th, 87. And then in March of 88, One Tree Hill was released in Australia and New Zealand only. It was again produced by Brian Eno and Daniel Lanois. It was a lot of it was, I guess, Brian Eno moved on to another project before it was finished, so a lot
He
of it
did, yeah.
was mixed and, I guess, edited by Steve Lillywhite, who did um, Boy, October, and War, I believe.
Yeah, because he said he would only do two, right? And then he ended up also doing War.
Yeah. So it ended up number one on both the UK and US charts. It was at the end of the year charts in the UK, it was number 2. In the US, it was number 6. The end of the decade charts in the UK, it was number 10.
Wow.
Yeah, it certified sales in the UK 9 times platinum, which is 2,880,000 albums sold. And
Wow.
in the US, it's diamond, which is more than 10 million.
So I have fun
So,
fact to go along with that.
okay.
It was the first release. So at the time, cassettes were the big thing, and they would see how something was selling and then go to CD. You have the exact same thing.
Exact same thing. Next on my list. Go ahead, though.
So it was the first release to ship record, cassette, and CD simultaneously, which also ended up making it was the largest shipment of CDs in the industry. When all was said and done, the Joshua Tree was the first platinum CD ever sold. It sold 1 million copies of the disc alone. First CD ever to go platinum. It's crazy.
Really crazy.
They're in London. Tower Records put it on sale at midnight, and over 1,000 people got in line to buy it, including Elvis Costello.
Really? That's
According to the
fascinating.
facts.
Huh.
That came from Carter Allen's book.
Okay.
So if that is a wrong fact, Mr. Costello, you can talk to Mr. Carter Allen.
Let us know too, please.
Yeah, give us a call, Elvis. Let us know.
Yeah. So that's crazy because, I mean, the album goes on sale at, well, I guess at that time they had, they didn't have any singles that came out before the album was released. So never mind that.
Yeah.
So that's blind faith.
Yep.
That many people bought the album just sight unheard.
Over 1,000 people, it says.
Sound
it's
unheard.
Crazy.
Totally crazy.
And let me tell you, they're in for a very good surprise.
Yeah, seriously. I mean, I guess I don't know, that's just amazing. That's a really amazing fact right there.
Yeah.
I think that most people will agree that this is one of U2's top albums. I think a lot of people would say
absolutely iconic.
Yeah. I mean, if you've heard of U2, you've heard of the Joshua Tree.
Yeah. Or at least you know the songs.
Yeah, yeah.
The hits.
So I have my theory with the trilogy is that Joshua Tree is the second in this particular trilogy after Unforgettable Fire and before Rattle and Hum.
Yeah.
So
I have something. Oh, that segues into something, but I have something else I want to say first. I'm going to go back to that.
Okay.
Because I want to talk a little bit, like we talked about the fun facts and the stats. I want to talk a little bit musically.
Okay.
In general.
I have a thing about that to say too, but
yeah. So there's quotes from both Bono and Larry talking about how Bono says, like, this one is a significant record because it was time for him. He said, come clean as a word writer. Like, he could no longer he had to truly tell the stories and not be doing sketches. So he had to really, like, amp up. And even Larry mentioned that Bono was doing that. But he also said, and I thought this was interesting, and it's so obvious reading it, that captures something that Bono does live that they've never caught on recording before.
Huh.
Just interesting. It's so hard. I've heard so many of these songs live so many times, especially the staples like Streets, that when I hear that recorded version, I only hear the live.
Exactly. I'm the same exact way.
So it's hard to know. But they both just mentioned how this is so much more of a concrete album.
Right.
And it's songs as opposed to this like overall painting.
Yeah. So I have a bit about Bono saying about the sketching too. He said that he always thought it was old fashioned to write words. So he did exactly what he said. He sketched songs at the mic. But the quote I have is for Joshua Tree, he thought it was time to write words that meant something from his life experience.
Yeah.
And so, I mean all the other songs are from
been
his
happening for a while.
Yeah, but it's but I mean there's definitely, I mean this album's definitely not a sketch of anything.
No.
It's it sounds like confidence.
Yeah.
So I have a couple little kind of personal comments.
Okay.
That one of the things is that This album changed my life. Totally, it changed the course of my life. Like, I don't know what my life would have been if I hadn't heard this album, if I hadn't, you know, jumped off the deep end into this one. But without the Joshua Tree, I wouldn't be speaking to any of you right now, and I wouldn't have my friends. And so my question, not my question, but my what I would say to Bono over Whiskey and Cake, which I know we're getting ahead, I'm a little
That's
ahead of
okay. If
myself.
it's now, it's now.
This is what I'd want to say to him is, thank you for this album and thank you for it all, but I wouldn't have my friends without this album, and I don't know what I would do without you guys. So
Oh,
that's a huge thing, and that's the number one thing unfortunately, I haven't had any quality time with Bono to say that since I came up with that theory years ago, but
yeah.
um, because yeah, but that needs to be said. I need to say that. Um,
Well,
that's
that's
a
perfect
huge
whiskey and cake conversation.
yeah. And okay, so preparing for this, I don't know how you felt, but I was just so stressed out. I'm still a little stressed out about this episode because I kind of go from like having no words to say to having all the words to
All
say,
the words.
all the words. And I imagine that songwriting has similar construction issues, and I think I have a newfound sympathy for Bono with that because this episode has just been huge. But I feel like, and this is hashtag I think Bono would be proud. I felt like taking, and this is, I wrote this actually, that taking on the Goliath that is the Joshua Tree has been very rough and exhausting, but I definitely felt like King David, the underdog, and persevered and took down the giant. See what I did there?
I see what you did there.
Yeah. So I think Bono would be proud.
I
Hashtag
think Fawn would
Bono would.
be proud of that.
Yeah. The other thing, and this is, I think, for my personal statements for the album as a whole, this is it. But I think that the album is just so well mixed, and it's it's hard imagining these songs coming out of a studio at all. It just seems like they were born this way, like I can't see them being in a studio. Like these songs are just so good that you don't hear, with one exception, which we'll get to later, but you don't hear the studio in these albums, which a lot of prior U2 songs, I think you can hear that.
Yeah.
You can see how things, you can hear the studio environment.
Well, there are
And
quotes
maybe
about, I would say there are quotes from both Edge and Larry about this album, how this is, sometimes you write the song and sometimes the song writes you kind of thing. And they both said about this album that this is the first real instance where the songs controlled
right.
everything as opposed to the artists.
I can totally see that. And so I think I never really dug deep into learning about the recording. One thing is because they didn't they don't really talk about it that much. I mean, they talk about
No.
in the studio all the time about with Octung Baby. Like each one of those songs, they've
Yeah.
talked, and you can what happened, the making of each one of those songs. They don't talk about that as much with the Joshua Tree, so you have to dig for that information. And I think maybe I hadn't done that because maybe it would have, ruined the magic or something for me. It did not, but most of this information is brand new to me.
Yeah.
I From doing this podcast because I didn't know a whole lot of this before we started this, which is kind of
That's exciting.
a big thing.
Is so ingrained in your life and you know so well that
Yeah,
to have it be
but
brand new again.
yeah, it really feels like that. And I mean, I'm not kidding. My anxiety about this has been ridiculous. It's just so much to take on.
When we
And I don't,
decided that we were done with the Unforgettable Fire and it was time to start listening to the Joshua Tree, it took me a week to start listening to it. I
yeah.
was so scared.
Yeah, I was too, but it also was so crazy because it sounded new to me. Like, I mean, I've heard this album 8 million times and,
Yeah.
5 times through live or 6 times, or I think, I don't remember. But it sounded, listening to it, listening to it, knowing that we're going to talk about it, that it's on the horizon, everything just sounded totally different to me, which was so
Absolutely.
exciting because, you always want that first listen again, and you don't get that very often.
But it's like that's so cool that we're getting this. And so we have a rule that we aren't allowed to listen ahead, which listening into these shows that have been going on, the current Joshua Tree 19 shows that are going on down under has been a great cheat.
Yes.
Been allowing me to hear some other things. But recorded wise, I've only listened to Joshua Tree since we finished Unforgettable Fire. I've been very good about that.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. I didn't start
Yeah.
to listen until we were done with that. I
But
have
listening
my
to them evolve from Boy to October to War to Unforgettable Fire to hear like it's like rediscovering the band all over again.
It
And it's
absolutely
so
is.
amazing. Okay, so we cannot mention this album without first talking about America and the
Yes.
overall influence. And this is our first ginormous look into the band's love affair slash love hate relationship with
With the
America.
idea of
The
America.
love of the idea and the love of the people and the hate of some of the politics and the
Yeah.
things that were going on, which we'll get to later. But while not every song on the album is about America, it seems that every song, at least like style, maybe is influenced by listening to American artists and being in the landscape and being in the desert and this that. Because there's definitely songs that are not about America,
No, definitely.
but it's all influenced by their time here.
I have a Bono quote about that. He said from his trip to Africa, he thought that while Africa had a physical desert, we all have a desert of some sort, and that's what attracted him to using the desert as a symbol.
Yeah. Yeah, they were really enamored by the Nevada deserts and the Sierra Nevada out in California and Nevada. And of course, that's where all the imagery of the Joshua Tree and Joshua Tree National Park and Death Valley. The Joshua Tree on the cover of the album is actually, that location is in Death Valley, not in Joshua Tree National Park. But yeah. And there was like the desert wasn't lacking. The desert, like all things were possible with the wide open spaces. Are we ready to dive into the songs?
Yeah, I think we are.
Okay. Because I have
This,
I have to go back to my transition if we're
I
ready.
I'm so curious what you're gonna
Are you
say
ready?
because I have a transition too.
Okay. This is not my revelation, so you probably read the same thing. That
No, mine is
Josh,
actually my revelation. But go ahead.
oh, this is your revelation. No, this I read and I thought it was so brilliant because I'd read all these quotes about how Bono had stopped writing from a sketch and the songs were solid. They stood alone, blah, blah, blah. But going from the Unforgettable Fire into Where the Streets Have No Name, which is track one on the Joshua Tree, side A, was a perfect transition because it is the only song on the album that is also a sketch. So it like brought the people who loved Unforgettable Fire so much. It like was like a comforting welcome, while at the same time this huge new sound that had become the band. And with that, we can talk about Where the Streets Have No Name.
Well, so this was my absolute. I actually didn't read that, but my revelation kind of was if you, it's in the same, you know, area, but if you play MLK and then let it go into Streets,
Yeah.
it's like fluid. It's like you know, I mean, like what exactly what you were saying, except that I didn't read that, but it literally sounds like where MLK ends, where the Streets have no name begins. Like
Right.
they like just kind of like blend right into each other, which
Yeah.
kind of made my head explode because it's literally where the album Unforgettable Fire, it's what you
Ends.
said, ends and the
Yeah.
Joshua Tree begins, but it's so specific. I mean, if
Right.
it works for the album, you know, as a whole, but those two songs are just kind of nuts. Like it, if you listen to just those albums back to back, it is full evolution.
Right.
And that just hearing that made my head explode because it's just that, you know, it's like that. There's almost something like dreamy that just kind of flows in those two songs,
Absolutely.
and it
And
just
like one fades out and then it fades it like it.
yeah. And I mean, like if you think about that, you think about MLK as being a closer, and it's really not, you know.
It's an
And like you,
intro.
it's an intro to. I have chills with this. When I wrote this down, I was it blew my mind because it really sounds like those songs go together, and I never would have thought that before,
Yeah.
ever.
That's amazing.
Well, okay, so Where the Streets Have No Name, it has been played 800. Well, you know what? I didn't update my figures. So it's been
Oh.
played now 891 times.
Did you add two?
I just had to add two. I have heard it 53 out of 61 shows.
I'm at 46 out of 50. We had mentioned before, like, we need to talk about the album and not
Right.
about the live versions. And some of these songs cannot be separated.
No, you can't separate Where the Streets Have No Name from
No.
being live. Like I mean, it's just crazy to me because, but they were looking for to write a live song.
Yeah.
They had this, you know, like a blank, you know, like they needed a spot for the live song, a spot for the
Right.
big, you know, single, whatever. And anyway, so my note is as the story goes, that it took a long time for this song to come into its fruition.
Weeks.
Yeah,
Like,
and the longer it took, the more our producer slash villain Brian Eno disliked it, and he hated it so much that he was going to stage an accidental erasing, like
he
whoops,
ordered people out of the room.
yeah, and he was going to erase the song because he didn't like it, and it frustrated him so much because it took so long, and an engineer like physically stopped him right before he hit
Yeah.
the button, and that's not cool. But it's also not the first or the last time you two got bamboozled by Eno. Bamboozled is the word that
And
before we even started this, I said somehow I'm going to work the word bamboozle into
it's
this
very
podcast.
appropriate. That works.
Yeah, yeah. So
And this is one of
his
those songs that Edge
Svengali
said,
Rasputin, man, he angers me so much. But anyway, go ahead.
but somehow he does good work. At least he helps our band do good work. This was one of those songs that Edge said, like, they had to wait for the song to arrive. They just had to keep working until the song arrived. Like, it was there. It wasn't about their skills or them creating it. It was had to show up.
So it's a quote from The Edge. He said that he he and his wife had bought a house, but no, they hadn't moved in yet, and he just needed. They sent Bono away to write lyrics. They like banished him and said he
Yeah.
couldn't come back unless he had lyrics. So Edge decided to go into his empty house, no furniture or anything, and just see how, you know, the acoustics were, and if he could just be by himself,
As you would, yeah.
as what,
As
um,
Edge would.
yeah, And so he said that he tried to dream up what he would want to hear if he was at a U2 show. At
Oh, that's so great.
yeah,
He's never
not
been to a YouTube show,
he's been at them, but
but not to
anyway,
the.
so he said it was his attempt to conjure up the ultimate U2 live song. He said it was a strange feeling when I finished the rough mix because I thought I had just come up with the most amazing guitar part and song of my life. But I was totally alone in a big house with no one to share it with. He said, I remember listening to the complete silence of the house for a few seconds after the music had stopped and then doing a dance around the room, punching the air. He's like, and then I went home. That's the exact.
Oh, I love that man. That is so
Look,
great.
isn't it? Can't you see that? Just like him, like running around, just like.
He's like this victory lap.
Yeah. Anyway, I love that so much. That quote. I think that's the
Oh, that's
favorite,
amazing.
my most favorite thing I read.
That is so great.
Yeah.
Well, so what I have then is a little bit pertinent. It goes well with that. In that, so I'm in the car and I've got the album on and I've got it's a nice day. I've got the windows down, it's blaring, and I'm making a fool of myself driving a car listening to the song. And I was thinking about, I think it was back with Bad on the Unforgettable Fire. We were talking about that there are just some songs that when they're sometimes it works in the recorded version, but it always works in the live version where you just like you're just transported into the song. And you're like in your own space, maybe to the people like it's communal, I don't know, but like you just get into the song. Like you are feel like you're literally in the song.
Yeah.
And they have a good job of doing that live. But with Streets is and Bono will say that with this song, especially live, he's asking like the biggest question of the audience, and that's like trust me and come with me.
Mm-hmm.
I know those aren't his words, but it's like just come on, we're gonna go on this journey together, and you've got to just trust me on it. And it is like this is the song where like Bono takes you by the hand, and you're like there together, and you are also with everyone else in the audience, but
Right.
instead of kind of getting to this like trance mode of just kind of being lost in the rhythm, it's this like crazy communal all together feel, and I was really excited about that.
It's the excitement of that song is like tangible or something. It's just yeah, no matter, but it
Leap of
has.
faith, he says. He's asking the audience to take a leap of faith.
I see that. So and again, I know we said we weren't going to talk specifics about the live versions, but I think this
We have.
song.
It's okay.
So I mean, my heart races every time I hear it. Like if I'm in the grocery store or something.
Oh, and like just the intro, that humming of the organs, like the chills I get are like
Yeah. Well,
a
so
visceral reaction.
obviously, for the Joshua Tree tour, it's it has the huge, it's just red and the impact and everything.
Hmm.
But I think what excites me the most, my memories, is for Pop Mart when he
Hmm.
ran down the catwalk to the end of the B stage, and we were mostly always at the end of the B stage, and he was like running towards us, and that,
It was
you know,
to us.
to us, and it was so exciting. It was, I don't think there'll ever be another concert moment, a regular concert moment that is that exciting to me. That was
Yeah.
just, um,
Like again, if he could have literally taken our hands and taken us on the journey right there and then he would
yeah.
have.
And he did. I mean, that was, I don't know, that just made us such a part of that song. But it's so dramatic with the rise and fall that you get that. I mean, I listen to it and I get that as, the live version, which again,
Yeah.
most songs you don't hear that. I have a really fun fact that I never noticed before There are no backing vocals. None.
Huh. It's
None.
just straight up
Yep.
Bono. That's it.
Yep.
Interesting. I
I
absolutely
don't
believe
think it's
that.
like that live, but the actual album version, um,
Yeah. Oh,
that
I'll have to pay attention.
yeah,
Yeah.
isn't that crazy?
I believe it
I
completely.
listened to it in my car one morning and I'm like, wait a minute. I gotta listen to this again because I think I just imagined that. And I went
Yeah.
back and listened to it another like 3 times. And I'm like, oh my God, there are no backing vocals. And I
That's
don't think there's
crazy.
another, I can't think of another song, not on this album. I can't think of
There's
another song.
always, I mean, it's whether it's Edge or Edge and Bono, there's some kind of
Right,
mixing, whether
right.
it's a chorus or the bridge. So getting back to nitty gritty of the song, there's always been lots of talk, because it is a sketch from Bono about having been in Africa, and is this a spiritual place? Is this a romantic place? Like it's kind of all encompassing, um, a sketch of a location. It's not a specific place. But I read this thing that he said, which was something that was new to me, that he had learned from someone else that in Belfast, you can literally tell not only your religion, but how much money you make, what kind of job you have by like literally what side of the road you live on a specific street. It was that separated
Hmm.
by not only religion and but class and socioeconomical. What meant so if you told someone what street name you lived on and what like house number it was, they could tell any number of things about you and your
Huh.
lifestyle. So he wanted to write about a place where the streets have no name, where
Interesting.
those things don't matter, which can then
I,
take you back to Africa and take you back to spiritual places and take you
right.
back to. But I had never heard that before. I thought that was really like an interesting place for that
So
to
I
start.
can remember where I wrote this note and I got it from the guy that wrote it. He said, the funny thing is that we don't know the location of these nameless streets. They're in Africa or Dublin or the US or in love. And I just thought that was kind of
That's amazing.
bon
Yeah,
Bono to say
yeah,
that, you're driving around with streets that have no name. You don't really have, a map of love either.
right,
So
right.
you can take that song has endless um explanations to it, endless meanings.
Yeah.
Um, but
And
it's
interestingly enough, Bono's been talking about it recently about how he's not happy with the lyric because he just thinks that the sketch and it's not finished and there's like just so much more that could be there. And so this is, I might have more questions for him later, but my question over whiskey and cake to him would be like knowing what he knows, how he knows the song now after having performed it almost 900 times, would it be even worth changing? Like, does he wish it was more,
right.
or is it perfection as it is? There was that great interview, and I forget what it was. You and I watched it together. It might have been an Australian interview. I forget, but it was the whole band, and Bono was going on about it a little bit, and Edge is next to him, just like shaking his head, like, "You're a fool. You're a fucking fool." Like, and Bono will be like, "No, like the band's perfect." He's like, "But the lyrics are too simple or something." And Edge just continues to be like, don't be an asshole.
Well, it's I just had this you saying that I just had this kind of comparison, but like there's a old Jewish mothers and grandmothers or whatever. They make a big deal where when you sit down to eat and they feed you something and they're like, "Oh, but it's too salty." Like they're always telling you what's wrong with it. And then I think then you say, "Oh no, but it's good," or whatever. No, no, no. It should have been,
Yeah.
sweeter or whatever. There's something wrong with it. Like they'll never say that their food. I think it's some sort of superstition or something like that. I don't know.
Yeah.
I know my grandmother used to do it. She would tell you what. was wrong with the food, even though that was kind of
Probably
not true
delicious.
at all. But
Yeah.
I feel like maybe Bono has a little bit of the Jewish Bubby syndrome.
Apparently there's Jewish on his mother's side, so there you go.
Yeah, I don't know. I never thought about that before, but I think that he might have a little bit of that
Jewish Bubby.
syndrome where it's like,
I will never not think that now when I look at
yeah, I
him.
never thought about it. That was right off the cuff, but
Oh,
yeah.
oh, little buddy.
Oh, when my mom says it, I'm like, yeah, you're right.
You're right,
We're not
it's too
playing that game.
salty.
You say that it's too salty, then okay, it is.
Yeah, right?
I'm not playing that game. But with my grandmother, I always,
Bubby, it's different, yeah.
yeah. My other grandmother did it way more than Bubby, but anyway, yeah, Bono the Bubby. So,
Hey there, listeners. If you're a U2 fan, you are more than likely aware of the work that Bono has done and continues to do in Africa. It's amazing work, and the exciting thing is you can get involved too. There are 2 simple ways. 1. Go to one.org and sign up to fight against extreme poverty. 2. Visit red.org to shop. What? Shopping helps? It sure does. By purchasing Red branded products, you are contributing to the Global Fund, which supports HIV/AIDS grants in many African countries. As your man says, where you live should not decide whether you live or whether you die. So head on over to one.org and red.org to join the Garden Tarts in doing our part to end AIDS.
should we move on to the second track?
Yes. I would love to do that. Track
Okay.
2 of side A is I Still Haven't Found What I'm Looking For.
That has been played 677 times, updated, and I've heard it 43 times out of
I'm
61.
at 29. I thought it might be more, but there was a while it wasn't around.
Did you miss it?
I do now. I didn't before. I'd
Yeah.
heard it enough, but
But it
hearing it
was,
in context with the Joshua Tree
yeah.
was pretty amazing. And now I hear it like just playing my CD or on the radio, and I have a whole new love for it.
I do too,
Like,
and I feel like the fact that it wasn't played at all on I&E made me love it even more. And I
yeah,
didn't. This is not one of my all-time favorite songs. I have a lot to say about it, but it's not.
me neither, but man, the joy that was in the room
Yeah,
listening to them play it during the JT tour,
yeah.
like that just stays with me now. And I must say, so Garden Tart Amanda, this is her favorite song of all time. Like of every artist, every band, and she, as much as she's a U2 fan, she is quite the artist and catalog of things that she loves.
Yeah.
This is her song, and there is nothing quite like being next to her at a show when this song plays. It is her happy place.
I love it, and it's interesting because I vividly remember that when I first got into the album, that my 2 favorite songs on the album were "I Still Haven't Found What I'm Looking For" and "With or Without You," and I feel like those really weren't my 2 favorite songs. It was just like genius marketing.
Yes.
They
Yeah.
were so well marketed, they were so well played on the radio that it actually kind of screwed with my head to make
Well,
me think
yeah.
that those were my favorite songs. And by no, I mean, they're wonderful songs. I love it so much. People complain, again, we're going to the live thing, but quite often Bono will start the song and then just stop singing. And I know a lot of people complain about that because, they say they don't go to a U2 concert to hear the audience sing. They go to hear Bono sing. But I love it. I love
It
that to
works in this
hear.
song.
I think it
It
does.
works.
It doesn't
Because
work
it's
as well for
church.
one, but it is. It is like going to
This
church.
is my non-church going, non-religious practicing
Right.
self.
It's
This
a
to
it,
me is the church is this is the church song I accept.
it's a it's it's a spiritual congregation.
Yes, there you
That's
go.
what it is. But when we're all singing the song, it's like, I don't know, I feel like the audience just becomes like unified because we all know the lyric. And I was saying, I don't get that vibe with One. Like
No, it's
he
not
does
the
the same thing
same.
with One, but with One it's just like, I don't know. It's also, I mean, One's a wonderful song, but this just kind of touches me a little bit more. This has a little more of a special place in my heart.
One is a solo song, and this song, and we'll talk about it on Rattle and Hum, but this song is meant to be sung by a church choir.
Right.
Like it's meant for the people
Right.
to sing, not just one singer.
So I have something that will maybe make your head explode if you haven't read this.
Okay,
But
I'm waiting.
okay, Edge says he doesn't like it because the beginning of it sounds like Eye of the Tiger. Sorry. Sorry for everyone. It ruins the song forever. All I hear now is like dun, 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 dun. You hear Eye of the Tiger.
I have to pour more drinks now. That killed me.
It hurt my heart. It hurt my brain. I'll never forgive him for saying that.
Does he know he has the ability to change that?
Yeah. Yeah, and I
Just a
do
little
think
tweak
that
here
was
or there.
a more update. I mean, that wasn't an article. That wasn't a quote from way back. I think that was from like YouTube by YouTube maybe that he said that.
I'm gonna have to look with that in mind, or listen with that in mind, because
The other thing is that
or
there's
maybe
something.
not.
Yeah, and maybe not. Maybe try not to think about that. The other thing that I discovered with listening for this episode is there's something with the cadence of the song, of the lyrics that's just really different. And I don't know that I've ever thought about it before, but like the pause, the beat, that I'm saying this
Absolutely.
totally unskilled musically, but so I have a few places highlighted, but Bono says, I've spoke with the tongue of angels. And it just
Mhm.
doesn't seem like the right, it's like he just glosses over those two words, but they're separated with and
Like,
then
yeah, like
I've
first,
held
like, why is there a pause? But
yeah,
it works.
I've held the hand of a devil, I believe in but the way that he says it, it's like, I don't know, I don't know the exact wording, but it's a totally different
You're
cadence.
expressing it. You're expressing it. It's there.
Okay. But it's a totally different cadence from the usual any song. It's
Right.
just got a different, I don't know.
Well, the
That's
song
all.
definitely has gospel roots. This is like as American,
Yeah.
digging to American roots as you can get on this album, I think, well, in my knowledge. And I wonder if there is something in gospel songs that has something like that. I have no idea.
Yeah, I don't know either. That's a good further research.
So this song was originally a song called Under the Weather.
I have that note too. And then I'm out of notes for.
Yeah, and a different melody, but Edge came up with the title, and then Bono's imagination like went from there. And what's so cool about this song, and I've read a few quotes over the years from like religious leaders saying that they love this song so much because it isn't a blind faith song. It's not God Almighty, Jesus is the one, put your faith here and have no doubts, because it is all about questioning your faith and doubt. I think, I don't know about you, but for me, it makes it 1,000 times more believable
Oh yeah,
as a
absolutely.
religious song that it's questioning so much, which I just absolutely love.
I love it too, but I also, have I mean, I think that my thing is that if you stop questioning religion, then you become just one of those people that I don't like.
Right. Well, we talked about
A
with October.
fanatic.
You're like
Right.
all
We did
blind,
talk.
like, do not trust blind faith.
Yeah. Yeah. So if you don't question, then something's wrong. And I agree with that. That's what I want to hear out of a religious song.
Yeah. we were talking about the Unforgettable Fire and how that ends with MLK and how that so seamlessly goes into Where the Streets Have No Name, which is another sketch of a song. So, if I could dare say that this is the first proper formal song the band has presented to us. Like, this song is tight.
It is
Like,
tight.
it is so tight. The music, the lyrics, the everything. Even with its kind of like interesting, strange beat stuff, it is a legit song.
It is. It is.
And
You're right. It's
now we
tight.
get more of them, but oh my gosh, it's just so good and so much fun. And I can't help it nowadays when I feel like we have to do apps about videos because that would be fun. But I picture
Yeah.
this video and this video cracks me up so much because I guess the story goes that Ed showed up on time and the rest of the band had been overserved and they were late.
So
And
Ed
you
just
can see it in the video, like Ed is
yeah.
pissed.
Ed is totally sober and on time, and the rest of them
They're
are pretty lit.
and it's pretty obvious. I mean, even
Mhm.
Larry's giggling and laughing.
And then like at the end, it's right that Adam just gets in a cab and leaves?
Yeah.
like just in the
Bye.
video, he's just like, I'm out, I'm done. I called it in. Yeah. That's just the most fun. So I have a little we'll talk about that more, but I can't not tell this story, but so I was in 97. I went down to when we were there, went down to Fremont Street where the video was filmed, and it wasn't. Now
Oh,
it's
in
like,
Las Vegas, yeah.
yeah. Now it's. I'm sorry, I didn't say Las Vegas, but yeah. Now it's like a enclosed, like
It's like almost like a mall isn't the right word, but it's like the old downtown. They've like
right.
enclosed and protected it,
Yeah.
right?
It wasn't like that then. It was
Oh,
still
okay.
open, and I went with a friend of ours who had apparently done this research and said this is where this part of the video was and this part of the video was. And we're standing somewhere, and I can't remember exactly what part of the video, but one of the parts of the video, and this lady just like walks into a window. Like it's like a, like a, I mean, it's like a, I guess it was like a window to like a casino where you could see out, but you couldn't see in. But
Yeah.
there clearly was, and you could see your reflection. There clearly was a window there, and she just like walked right into the window, like it was like a cartoon or something. But anyway, I also can't help but think about that, and
Yeah.
because maybe she was, late and lit too, and, I'm
But
sure.
our guitar player's mad too.
Yeah.
All these
But
songs sing at so many places.
they do. They really, really do.
And both Bono and Edge have been quoted in interviews saying this recently about just in the last year about how they don't own these songs anymore because we all have stories and experiences with them.
Yeah.
I mean, it's definitely a talking point for the band right now, but it's so like you just lived that. Like
Right. Right.
that's your version of this song.
So yeah, that's a good thing to talk about over whiskey and cake. Here's
Yeah,
my story.
right?
You have your story. Here's what happened. Now I have it in my head. When I
Right.
hear the song, I see
A woman running into a window.
walking. I mean, like it was. She walked into it like it was an open door or something. But it was, oh God, it was wonderful.
It's so great. I hope she's still okay.
I'm sure she's
It's
fine.
20 some years later.
I think she had like little birds flying around her head and then just like walked it off. That's how it looked in my imagination.
Yeah, that seems about right.
Yes. Should we move on to the next song?
We should. What's the next song?
The next song is track 3, which is With or Without You. It
Well,
has been
this
played
song has a fun story.
833
Yeah.
times.
833, wow.
I've heard it 46.
I've heard it 37. We missed it?
No, and I feel
Since
guilty
post-Josh
about
retreat,
that.
we didn't hear it.
I don't I feel guilty about that. I miss Streets. I mean, I can honestly say that I miss Streets, but I didn't miss With or Without You. And I feel bad about saying it because I love that song so much.
I was okay to not have Streets on E&I. I think it was a good break from it because they've got some other really big songs, like big live songs now. But this song, it's one of those songs that I see on the set list. I'm like, oh, yeah, it's here. And then once it happens and it gets to the end, it's one of my favorite live moments. But let's talk about the song first. We have Gavin Friday to thank for this song.
Yes.
We do. He was the one who saved it. They had the drums and the bass, but it all wasn't coming together. And then apparently Gavin heard Edge playing his new Infinite guitar. Edge got a new toy. And Gavin's like, that's it. And I haven't read or heard this recently, but in my mind, I have this memory of reading that Gavin like went in the other room and like mixed it together and was like, look what I have done. And then he got in a apparently screaming fight with McGinnis about how it should be a single. And McGinnis is like, because us now, it's like a major part of their canon. Like, this is one of the biggest U2 songs there is. Like, how is this not a huge single? But I don't think it was an obvious single at the time. It was very different than anything else on the radio. And Gavin knew it. And McGinnis was like, no, this is not a good business decision. And Bono sided with Gavin. And voila.
Yep. The rest is history.
The hugest hit ever.
This song is perfect. And I think it's
perfect.
The first time I think we can say that Bono's voice is beautiful.
It is beautiful.
Like, I mean, you can say it for other songs, his voice is strong. His voice is, emotional or whatever. But I don't think you can say beautiful until we get to With or Without You. That's just my...
I'll go with you on that.
Yeah. And I mean, part of it is, there's definitely a sexiness to his singing that they didn't like edit out his breath. Like you can hear him breathing in the song, which is just
it's supposed to come off as like this sultry kind of love song.
Yeah. And
so much of it isn't, but
it's not. But I feel like it's a cop out to say, but it is in my top 5 U2 songs. And I don't know why. I just always have a thing against singles. That's the bottom line. I don't know. I just don't like people telling me what my favorite song what I should listen to.
Right, yeah, it's like you know too much, so you shouldn't. Why go with the masses?
And I definitely feel like it's a cop-out to say that because...
There's a reason it's so popular.
Right. But I mean, it's... How do you not fall in love with, that voice and the fragile character in the lyrics? Like, it's just... I mean, it's not a love song, but how are you not in love? And so this is honest. I'm honestly telling you, I heard this song, 269 million times, but the first time I listened to it in preparation for this podcast, I actually cried. Like, it made me so emotional, which is just nuts because, I probably heard this song more than I've heard any other U2 song, and partially by choice. But my reaction to it and like I said before, just doing this, preparing for this podcast has just changed how I've listened, not just for this album, for all the albums. But this got to me, like, I seriously felt like it was the first time I'd heard the song, and oh god,
it's amazing.
Yeah, but I mean, to listen to his range and his vocal control, and he doesn't sing through his nose anymore, which he did that a lot.
So I do have a huge pet peeve in this song.
Okay.
Because I was in choir all through high school, and our choir teacher, Christine Leachmany, says, we do not chew in this choir. You We don't go with or without you.
Oh, yeah.
So I remember, so it was while I was in choir that I discovered this song. And I was like, what the fuck's he doing, man? But every once in a while, he gets it out, like without you. So that's like a little running joke in my head, a little pet peeve I have, but it does not keep me from loving the magic of the song. I have written down that it's a mix of a love song and a religious song, but ultimately it's about Bono himself. And
Yeah,
he'll say, I've read this quote 1,000 times in 1,000 different places, 269,000 times. Then he will say, the entire band knows that when I sing and you give yourself away, that is only about me. That is only about Bono.
right,
And it's about being on stage and singing the songs and being this pop star and this public figure. And like, what do you keep for yourself?
right. So
And how do you live with that?
I've had this theory, and I've talked to you about it, I know, many times, but I feel like With or Without You has a sister song, All I Want Is You, which is, this is my theory. I'm not getting this
Hmm.
from anywhere else, but both of these songs are a conversation between two people. And I did just read that Bono said, he didn't go into details. He said, he doesn't talk about his personal life or whatever, which is bullshit because he does. But he said,
He's
he's not
obviously got
going.
some line, but that line's gotten very gray recently.
Right, right. But he said, I'm not going into specifics who the speakers are. And I do think that was an old quote, but it's two people. It's a
Yeah.
song about two people. And
Are they not
I
both
like,
him?
they're not both him.
Okay.
And that's what makes the song not a love song. It's kind of mean.
Yeah.
It's like, I
Yeah.
actually have always thought that it's kind of a mean song. And like, so I interpret it. Person one says basically, I know I hurt you, but you hurt me too. And then person two says, we've worked really hard to get to this point, but we need to work harder and I'll wait. And they both say, I can't live with or without you. And then person two says that person one gives himself away, and
Huh.
number one, and then person one says he's still hurt, but he's going to hurt either way. So that's how I see it. So it
I
is
love
Bono giving
that.
himself away, but he's not the one saying, I'm giving myself away. It's, and you give yourself away.
Right.
So, like he can,
Interesting.
yeah.
Yeah.
And so he says, like specifically in the lyric, but yeah, I know I hurt you, but you hurt me too. And that's, see the stone set in your eyes, see the thorn twist in your side. I wait for you, sleight of hand and twist of fate on a bed of nails. She makes me wait.
Yeah.
So that's, person one. Person two says, through the storm we reach the shore. You give it all, but I want more. And that's, we've worked really hard at this, but we still need to work more. And I'll wait. I'll wait for
Yeah.
that. And then you give
Oh, I
yourself away.
love that. I've never read it that way.
It's
And
I
we've
came
talked a lot about All I Want Is You, which we'll get to later, but I can't wait to talk more about that because we haven't gone into crazy detail.
no,
And I know
but
you
so
have a
this
big
is,
theory on it,
and
but this is
again,
great.
I could be totally off on that, but I've had this theory since, I think, I don't know, not when I first heard the song, obviously, because I was a kid, but in my in my adult life, I've had this theory. I've had this theory for 20 some years, but I never heard Bono say that before. And I can't remember where he said it, but he said it's a conversation between two people, but I'm not going into specifics over who they are or anything. And it's like, well, come on, dude. You don't have to go in specifics. We get it. But I mean, that to me is clearly what the song is.
Yeah.
And again, its sister song is All I Want Is You because it's the same thing. And I think people hear those songs and think, oh, this is so sweet. And both of them to me are pretty mean, aggressive songs. Like, they're not lovey-dovey. They're, this is what's wrong with you kind of thing. And I think All I Want Is You is, we'll get to that next, but I think that's heavier than With or Without You, but that's what I hear. And again, I could be totally off. That could, but that's just how I hear it.
But it's your song.
It is my song.
It is your song.
Yeah.
And you've given it to us to interpret it how our hearts do.
I said this, I was talking to my friend Lauren, who is pretty much a new-ish fan. But we saw my friend's U2 cover band, and she was like, when With or Without You played, when they played With or Without You, she just like stopped like in the middle of the song and was just like, hey, I think there's a story here and I'm dying to hear it.
Oh, I love her.
Like, I have it. I mean, maybe not, but this is the story in my head. And I felt like, maybe I haven't said it about With or Without You. I know I say it all the time about All I Want Is You, that it's a conversation, but I felt like
I do not remember having this conversation with you, like you telling me about this song.
I've said it.
First I'm hearing this, yeah. Okay.
Well, I mean, to me, it's the same song.
Yeah.
It really is. It's the same. I mean, it's like a part 2 of a really long song, but I felt like when Lauren asked me that, I was so excited to actually someone asked me that question, that I have had this really, evolved theory about. And anyway, so, well, thank you guys for listening to me say it this time too, because really this wasn't something off the cuff.
And what do we say, that this is like, our podcast is mostly opinion with a handful of facts thrown in? Yeah. Like, so, that's what it's all about, right?
Right. I mean, the truth is, it could be about, I don't know, dog or...
No, we know too much.
Garbage, or I don't know.
We know too much if that's not true.
Yeah, but...
I will say, so if I could just... I mentioned this before, like, at the end with, like, when the big, huge OOOs come in, that is one of my favorite live moments ever of any U2 show. That, I don't know if it's 45 seconds or something. I miss that. I miss it.
Yeah. God, just this song is just so much. For a song with, pretty few lyrics.
Yeah, it's not a long song.
No, lyrically. It's definitely a made-for-radio song. But to me, it's just perfection. And I don't know that there are many other... I mean, there are plenty of songs I think are perfect, but I don't think there's... Again, it's in my top 5.
Yeah.
It's probably in my... No, it's in my top 5.
I should try and make it top 5-ish.
Yeah. I mean, it changes daily, but today it's...
Yeah.
I think it's 4 or 5 in my top 5. My number 1 never changes, but the others do. But we'll get to that.
I don't think I know what your number 1 is.
Yeah. We'll get to that. I know what yours is because I had to tell you.
It's one of my favorite stories of all time. We'll get to that in a few more albums.
No, honey, I'm sorry. You're wrong.
And I was like, oh, you're right. Except I think it's changing.
Yeah. So the next song is track 4, Bullet the Blue Sky.
Okay.
It's been played 781 times, updated. I've heard it 44 times. And again, we're not talking about how songs are live, but I love this song live. And I feel like a lot of people don't. Like, I've heard a lot of people just over time just not have great things to say, but I love that Bono does like performance art in it. Like for I&E, he did this whole like speech thing that was the most brilliant thing ever, and obviously we'll get to that later, but I just love this song live because it changes so much all the time.
It has evolved so much and tends to go with whatever the political climate it is at the time. I admit that I'm done. I'm kind of done with it live, but that's just my own personal problem for just having heard it so many times.
Right.
So I don't complain to hear it.
It
I
was
would
kind
rather
of
hear other
revived to me.
things.
It kind of had a, revival to me for E&I because I love that part where he did the na 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 19 thing,
Yeah,
the
it's true. And the megaphone was a great addition.
yeah.
We'll get to all
Okay,
that. But
so
the album version's very different.
very, very different. A little bit of a backstory, a little bit of a history lesson. After the Conspiracy of Hope tour in 1986, Bono and Ali went on holiday to war-torn El Salvador, Nicaragua, as you do on holiday.
Yes.
And they saw violence and death, and it was, horrific. The thing that you also have to kind of think, and I don't know a ton about this, so you might want to Google some of it too, but I found this really interesting. You might remember the whole debacle during the Reagan and then some administration where we had the Iran Contra issues, and they had these hearings all the time and people went to jail all over North. And what that was, which I don't think I really understood, except that I knew that it was a bad thing, was that the U.S. were selling arms to Iran to make money to fund the Contras in Nicaragua, who were anti-communist and waging a civil war that was paid for by the U.S. And
American
that's
tax
what,
dollars.
yes. But I mean, selling arms to someone that's not our friend anyway,
Right.
to come up with money so that we could fight communism that I don't think was, and I was a kid and I don't, again, Google it, but I don't think it was that big of an issue. It was just the US funding control and death, basically. Anyway, that's what was going on. Bono and Ali went to El Salvador, Nicaragua, and they were in the middle of this civil war that the U.S. was paying for. So when you think about this song and when you listen to the lyrics, to me that makes so much more sense. I don't.
Yeah.
Again, I'm pretty good with history, but I didn't know the background of that just because it happened when I was a kid and I wasn't paying attention. But to me, it sounds like it was just bullshit because how bad would us, that little bit of communism hurt us, especially when, right now, if you look at the world, democracy isn't working that great either. So
Right.
I don't know. Anyway, that's the history. That's the background.
Yeah. And Bono tells stories about being in those countries and being shot at. And he's like, it's the first time I was shot at, as if there have been other times. But he said they were like warning shots. Like this wasn't target practice. This was you were in an area and you heard gunfire, and for all you know, it was coming at you, but it was like going way over the heads, whatever. And he came back home and they're working on the album, and he told Edge the story, and he's like, I need you to recreate this with your guitar. This one, like hearing gunfire and wondering if it's at you, and this, Civil War torn nation. Pump it out. What does it sound like? And he said something recently. I know you and I were talking about this, and I can't remember where it was. It was so recent about how all musicians are storytellers, and he gets the privilege of working with words, which are such just sometimes easier. But the Edge is also a storyteller, and he tells stories through his guitar. And knowing that the picture he is painting is what Bono's told him about, being in this these war-torn countries, it's like, oh, that is that sound.
That's what that sounds like.
Exactly what that sounds like. And it's brilliant.
So
the musicianship is amazing.
It's absolutely amazing. It's also my I love saying this more than anything, is my hashtag Bruce. I've got this guitar and I've learned how to make it talk.
Yeah.
And when you can hear a guitar and it sounds like another singer almost. You
Right.
know? It to me that's just the most. I was just listening to some song the other day and I can't remember what it was, but the guitar just was so strong. It just sounds like someone else. It sounds like another entity entirely. It's not just guitar playing. It's not just, rhythm or whatever. It's
Right.
someone singing,
My
It's like
cousin
lyrics.
my cousin has teenagers that are all musicians, like marching band musicians. And I'm 99.9% sure this is a quote that she got from somewhere else, but she hashtags it all the time when she puts pictures of her kids up playing music, and she says, "Musicians make inanimate objects sing."
Oh, that's really cool.
Like a guitar just laying there is nothing.
Right.
Put it in a musician's hands and it's everything.
Right. And the right
And I
musicians.
just love that. And with that in mind, an instrument could be anything,
Right. Oh, absolutely.
absolutely anything. But I think about that when I hear songs like this. But yeah, this is where the love-hate relationship comes in. Like when Bono talks about how he loves the idea of America and he loves the people of America, but unfortunately the Americans have voted for and put their faith in a man, an actor, nonetheless,
Right.
who
With
was at the time President Ronald Reagan, who was
with a face red like a rose on a thorn
Thorn
bush. He had
Bush.
those rosy.
Yeah, that's Reagan right there.
Yeah.
But the contrast of America is in here. It's not even worth paraphrasing because Niall Stokes wrote it so nicely. He said the song contrasts the burning crosses of the Ku Klux Klan with the liberating sounds of John Coltrane's saxophone. America, everything that's great about the world and everything that's repulsive about it.
That just gave me chills.
It's crazy, right? It's like just it sums up everything.
It does. These lyrics are, again, we talked about a sketch versus, proper lyric writing. I mean, obviously this is proper lyric writing, but this is a totally different caliber than
Yeah.
it's like fun with words, or it's not like fun, but it's like
Fun with words.
it's it's like, I don't know, but the way that these lyrics are just, there's like a different dynamic to it. It's so well written, but I kind of feel like it's, I don't know the word I'm thinking of because I don't have any musical knowledge, but it's just it's a much clearer picture than any, like there's nothing in these words you take at face value.
Yes.
It's not
hidden.
No, but it's just a different kind of lyric writing than I think
burning
we've heard
crosses
before.
And pelting the women and children.
Yeah.
And,
this is
face red, like these are such strong images. Like you can see them completely. I have a question for Bono over Whiskey and Cake.
Okay.
That I love when an album title comes from a lyric. I know we've talked about it. You have it written down too. Like, why did Rattle and Hum, why did that stand out?
Right.
To become the title of their next album.
Or,
yes, this song is on Rattle and Hum.
Right.
Live, but
why did that lyric, like Under a Blood Red Sky from New Year's Day? I love it. I wonder that. Like, why was it that? Why wasn't the album, called, I don't know, Sky Ripped Open or something like that?
Demon Seed.
Right. Right.
It could be anything. There's a treasure trove of poetic phrases. I don't know. It's kind of interesting.
God, these lyrics to me they're very different than anything we've heard before. Like I said before, but just everything, the Rattle and Hum, but Jacob Russell the angel and the angel was overcome. So that to me is just, a lot of the biblical references I don't get. But he's also with a lot of them, he's very kind of broad with it. Like you got to figure
Obscure,
it out.
yeah.
This is
Very
my
specific.
kind of biblical story.
That's a story that I know.
I'm Jewish, and
Yeah.
that's from the first part.
Part 1.
And I get the first part. I don't
The
get
first book.
I don't get side B so much.
Yeah, right.
Of the Bible.
You got side A of the Bible. But not side B.
I understand.
Oh. All the hits are on side A anyway.
Right. That's how I see it. I mean, you want to listen to side B, but
Get the full story.
Right, but side A
Doesn't mean it's a happy ending.
is what's happening.
Then there's also, there's also the preacher in here too. Yeah, I've always like slapping down those dollar bills. I know that can go with Reagan and the money, but for some reason with that, I've always gone to like the televangelist preacher.
Oh yeah, obviously.
And there's something else. I don't have the whole quote here, but there's something else in that Niall Stokes. This is in the U2 Songs and Experience book that he wrote. I think it's printed by Hot Press, about how America and the white evangelical preacher, and is he speaking to the Southern black man? Because no, it's the American paradox of America.
Right, right. I love just so much about the song, but I love the drama of the song. You know, it really
So
is
drama.
I mean, he sings this song as a different character, which I mean, he has a ton of songs he does that with now, but I don't think this is the first one. He could be a different character. He could act out the song.
Like him escaping into some version of himself.
Right. And again, now
something completely different.
He has a ton of songs like that now.
Yeah.
That he can do that with, but this was the first time I felt like, looking back, I feel like he had a character. This was
some good hindsight there, yeah.
Yeah.
And when he's on stage with this song, he's gone.
There's Anyway, I love it.
There aren't many songs where he's completely gone.
No.
There are a few. There's another one on this album. We'll get to it on side B.
Oh, that's a big one. Yes.
That's a big one.
Big one. The next song is
the last song on side A, right?
Last song on side A, track 5, which is Running to Standstill, which is one of my favorite songs.
I was really happy to pay so much attention to this song, because when you were talking about how beautiful his voice and controlled his voice was in With or Without You, I have notes about that in this song.
Mm-hmm. It's been played 400 times.
Oh, exactly.
Wow. I've heard it 8, which is interesting because
I've heard it 5 times, which is 2 more times than I expected.
So I think I went to 5 Joshua Tree
I went to 3.
Shows. Yeah. Then I went to 5, and I know the first time I heard it was at my first show at the Zoo TV show. So I'm kind of curious to know when were those other 2 times. I heard it. I don't know, and I don't really feel like looking it up, but
I had it. Let me look real quick.
Okay, I got it.
Okay.
So I was right. The first time I heard it was the first show I saw for Zoo TV in Hampton. And then I heard it at the Vertigo. It's the other 2 times were Vertigo, the first leg of Vertigo.
Yeah. I have it twice.
One in Chicago, one in Boston, and then all the other ones were.
And I have a Boston and a Philly. And the rest was the JT30.
Yeah.
It's interesting. So we talked a lot about on the Unforgettable Fire ep about both the songs Bad and Wire are about the heroin epidemic in Dublin, and they're such emotional songs. Wire is so incredibly angry, and Bad is such a pleading cry for help. And Running to Stand Still is really just like a picture in time. And apparently it got some criticism, or maybe criticism is the wrong word, because there's no moral compass in the song. Not saying it's good or bad.
Mm-hmm.
It's just accepting.
Right.
It's non-judgmental. I mean, it's beautiful in that way. It's really beautiful.
So such a beautiful song. So I have kind of a funny thing.
Okay, I want to hear it.
This is just one of those little things of this is what the inside of my head looks like. So maybe not everyone will appreciate it, but okay, so the beginning of this song to me, before there are even lyrics, I have this whole thing in my head. It sounds like the soundtrack to an old Western. There's like a cowboy walking through the empty streets of a ghost town with tumbleweeds rolling in. And he's like remembering that this town was once his home. And he sits on an old barrel outside of the former saloon.
Yeah.
And starts playing a sad tune on his harmonica. And you would think that the cowboy in my head would be, Clint Eastwood or John Wayne. But for some reason, it's little Carl from the first season of The Walking Dead.
Carl.
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 I'm not sure if that's really what was going on in my head or if I wanted us to have that. Carl. I don't know. No, really, that's what I see in my head. It's got this like ghost town twang or something. The other thing is Bono's voice in this song. He has such a Jim Morrison quality. Like that's what I hear. That's what I heard when I remember, early on listening to the album. But I hear it so much now that he has this. I think it's like when he sings the first part that's singing "Ha ah today." It's just that he has this like rumble or something in his voice that's very Jim Morrison.
I could see that.
Yeah,
I like it. It starts off as it's just like this beautiful ballad with the piano and the rolling drums, hence the tumbleweeds.
Yeah.
I'm glad little Carl is now in this song for me.
Yeah. Carl.
And it builds and builds and builds, but there's this moment in it that just has forever blown my mind. Because Bono has gotten to a point with the control of his voice and the quality of his voice that he could really belt something out and have a moment here. But the lines, you gotta cry without weeping, talk without speaking, scream without raising your voice, like that could be a moment, a really big vocal moment.
Right.
But he literally screams without raising his voice.
Mm-hmm. Literally. That's
a quiet and beautiful moment. I have this written down, and for all I know, I'm quoting something someone wrote, so I'm not going to pretend it's my own. It says, unlike other songs of this subject, this song isn't about anyone specific. It's tender and compassionate and absolutely no judgment. The music was improvised in the beginning with Walk on the Wild Side by Lou Reed and Candle in the Wind by Elton John in mind. And the lyrics are just gorgeous. Do you want to talk about the Seven Towers?
Yeah, I do. I'll talk about that for a second, and then I have a lot more to say about the lyrics, but vocals pretty much. But yeah. So as the story goes, Dublin in the 70s, like most cities, they had some basically gentrification issues in their urban areas. So, they kind of kicked out people that had been living there for a long time and the property values were low, and then they revitalized stuff in the property. And this has happened many times because, the Dublin that we see now is not the Dublin that I saw in 1996, 97.
Oh, not at all, yeah.
Yeah. So it basically, and Bono said that it took Ireland a really long time to realize that what didn't work for other countries was not going to work for them either, because the U.S. had long before built public housing in these, giant buildings, like where Good Times takes place, like
Right.
that kind of, and it doesn't work because when you put so many people with social issues like unemployment and drugs, like in high crime rate on top of each other, it just makes the issues greater. And on top of that, they didn't have very many public amenities. So these buildings were built, the seven towers, except actually there were more than seven, but there were seven big towers and then there were some other
Yeah.
smaller ones, but
And he
whatever.
could like see these from his neighborhood. Like they
Yeah.
were his calm, beautiful neighborhood he was growing up in. They like rose up.
Yeah, he could see him from his back door, but it just Dublin had, a heroin problem to begin with, and this
Right.
just made it a convenient place, like a one-stop shop kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Bono said that it was really bad
They were apparently
living
very fancy
conditions.
at first. They were like the first
Right.
elevators in the area.
They had
And
the
but the problem
first
was is that
cable in Ireland were in
yeah,
those cable
but
TV.
nothing was kept up. So things
Right.
would break through.
And there wasn't public schools weren't they didn't have great schools. They were
Right.
they were just everything was overpopulated and they didn't have very good, you know, public amenities or anything. The other thing is that, and this song isn't about specifically Phil Lynott from Thin Lizzy, but I think that's definitely something to talk about. They kind of made it big before U2, so he was kind of
Right.
a bit of a Irish legend, I guess, at the time, and he was friends with Bono. And apparently, at some point right after Bono and Ali got married, Phil lived down the street from him, and Bono said that they'd see each other and like, you come up
Mm-hmm.
for dinner, or come down for dinner or something, and
Yeah.
they never did it. And Phil ended up dying from complications of heroin use. It's a
Right.
tragic story, but you should Google this if you want more information because it's actually, I really enjoy reading about Phil Lynott. He has a really interesting story. But anyway, so that's, the tie-in with the heroin. And it's not like that's disguised in this song. Like
Right.
flat out.
It's
It's
openly
flat out.
about drug use. It's
Yeah, she will suffer the needle's chill. That the title of the song is the last lyric of the song. And
I
that's
love
just,
that.
I love that. It's something like what I read about it was like there's something like it's like delayed gratification. Like you listen to the whole song and then you get to the end and you're like, I get it, like it
Yeah.
all ties in. That
Full
I love that.
circle.
I
Yeah.
love that. I love songs that either don't have the title at all or that, it's just at the end.
Or like just like a little lyric as opposed to the main
Right.
chorus
Forest.
theme.
Yeah. So this is poetry. Again, obviously not a sketch, but a
Yep.
very thought out composition. But he has, like, Bono has the build up and the rage that builds up in his voice, which
Yeah.
I love it. And seeing it live. Like the thing is that I
It's
remember
almost
how
like the thrill of the hit.
right. I had this kind of moral debate in my head every time I heard this song was that I so wanted to sing along, but I
Yeah.
felt like if I sang along, I wouldn't get the full impact of the song. Like I needed
Yeah.
him to, I didn't need to
Tell you the
share it.
story. It's story time.
Right. I needed it to
Story hour.
be presented to me. I didn't need to share the
Right.
lyrics. But I think I did. I think there was one point that I did, but I really every single time I heard it, for Joshua Tree, the anniversary tour, I really, really did think, should I sing along or should I just
Yeah.
no, just enjoy it. But it's a fun song to sing along to, so
It's
the
beautiful.
lyrics are just so great.
But I mean, singing
It's
along to that, the halal of the day is just
I
like
know.
a communal again.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah.
So another thing. about definitely is a topic we need to discuss for this song is the harmonica. So I love the harmonica. And Ed said, and this I didn't know, but that from the very, very beginning of U2, Bono always carried around a harmonica.
Really?
Yeah, and that he would play it just to like, to try to get harmonies together and stuff. He
No
always,
way.
this was the first time he played the harmonica, but every
Yeah.
album that they'd done, he had a harmonica laying around.
Interesting.
But so and he's a really, really good harmonica player. He says he's not,
I
but I
know.
think
He
that's
says he
his
murders it, but I think he needs to give himself more credit.
I think that's his Bubby thing where he's
It's
like,
it's too
it's
salty.
too salty. And you're like, no, Bubby, it's delicious.
I'm really bad. Just don't pay attention to me.
Right, right. I think also I've had this theory before that it is a lead singer thing where it's like, I had a friend that was in a cover band and he come off stage and he was like, wow, I suck tonight. And everyone's like, no, you didn't. And he's like, oh, you think so?
Thanks.
And I'm like, I wasn't playing that game. So I'm like, well, if you think you sucked, then you must have sucked.
Must have
I'm not
sucked.
playing into that
Too
crap.
salty,
But
Mom.
that said, I do think it's more of I am kinder about Bono's. He's not doing that. He's just being.
We'll let him know when it sucks.
Yeah, I've never heard. I mean,
We have plenty of opinions.
yeah, right. I think he's an extraordinary harmonica player.
Yeah.
More so on side B, but we'll get to that
Yeah.
in a little bit.
I find it's every single time he gets out the harmonica, I'm like, wait, you can do that? It surprises me every time how good he sounds.
Every time. And he gives that speech that, the harmonica was invented by
The
Germans, and it was made famous by
Americans,
and now an Irishman is butchering the harmonica.
Murdered by the Irish.
Yeah, but it's no. That's not true.
It's not. He's doing a good job. I think I feel like he's giving himself an out in case he messes up.
Right? Maybe
but
you're
he
right.
Sounds great.
It always sounds great with it.
Always sounds great.
Yeah, and so I mean, I've heard people play harmonica before, and they're just like blowing into it or something, and they're not really. But I think it's easy to like get away to use a harmonica without playing it properly, because people just hear the harmonica. But he really plays harmonica, like that's for real. That's legit right there.
I'm gonna just give him a little pound on the back. It's okay, little buddy. You go play the harmonica. You got it.
But you're right. Every time he takes it out, I'm kind of surprised. Like it's. But what other songs does he play harmonica on though? I mean, aside from this album.
Besides Trip Through Your Wires and side B, I can't think off the top of my head that there's another one.
I can't either, but I know I've seen him many, many times play harmonica.
It's late and my brain's tired.
Desire.
Think of it. Oh, Desire, you're right.
Yes, of course. I've seen him played a million times.
Million times.
Yeah. But I've never heard these songs played many times, but it's Desire.
There you go. Good call. Good talk. I was like, we know he can play harmonica. We've seen it.
But it's got to be more than the
Joshua Tree
11 times I've heard. No.
Right. So I have another Niall Stokes thing that is food for thought for later ep. I have not wrapped my brain around this information, and I don't understand if I will agree with it or not. But he says, and I'm going to quote, about Running to Stand Still, in its lack of moral certainty and its refusal to judge its subject harshly, it looks ahead to the chaotic landscapes of Octum Baby and Zeropa, in which the only certainty is uncertainty itself.
Interesting.
Because I don't consider this song tied to those albums at all.
Not at all.
Yeah. He says that made it one of the band's most mature creations to date, a haunting, challenging piece of pop poetry that still resonates with lyrical truth. We should just read from his book because it's just
Right.
beautiful.
It is beautiful. There is, and I
And now I look
always,
forward to getting the Octobaby Baby and Zeropa and revisiting.
right. Oh, very much so. That
Yeah.
they don't have a trilogy. It's just, no, they do have a trilogy, and
Maybe
I'm
trilogy.
sorry. And I said this the other night. I was at Circa, and I'm like, well, they don't have a trilogy. And then my friend Kip was like, but what about Pop?
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh crap. Like how I left that entirely out of my timeline. I don't even know
But
how
I
I
think
did
at
that.
one point you thought Pop might be on its own, and I don't think so.
I don't think so. I did. You're right. But when
Yeah.
Kip said that, except though I totally skipped it over. I said um that,
Octobaby
the
Zeropa.
groupings, right, the
Yeah.
groupings were Octung Baby, Zooropa, and then All That You Can't Leave Behind and How to Dismantle an Atomic Bomb. And Kip was like, well, what about Pop?
Yeah.
It's in the Octung Baby Zooropa trilogy. And I'm like, holy crap, man.
Ugh, of all the people.
Did I know, right?
Thanks, Kip. Oh my gosh, we made
Um,
it through side A.
Side A. And what a great way to end a side A. Side A is just 100% perfection. I have nothing bad to say about.
Yeah.
I mean, I barely have anything bad to say about anything on the album, but definitely side A is the strong side.
Yeah. And to end on that, she's running to standstill and just like that little outro with the harmonica
Right.
and then you gotta flip the tape.
Yeah, the title, I didn't put a note in about that, but Bono said he got the title from his brother,
Oh,
who had,
really?
yeah, he said he asked his brother how his business was going, whatever business, and he said, it's not great. It kind of feels like I'm running a standstill.
Huh.
So his brother came up with the title, but I have a thing where I say it every single time I go on a big trip. Like I say it
Yeah.
every time. It's like I go to work and I have to go to work, but while I'm at work, all I can think about is what I need to be doing when I'm not at work. So it's
Right.
like I'm sitting here like there's so many other things I need to be doing now instead of being at work. And I feel like I'm running to standstill. Like my brain is running so fast but I'm standing still, which when you really think about that, think about, heroin use.
You're constantly wondering where you're next.
Yeah, but I mean, like you're like whatever, your body is on the inside just moving, so running,
Right.
and you're not necessarily,
Moving.
doing that
Yeah.
on the outside. I mean, I don't know many heroin users. I don't really know any currently.
Yeah.
Um, Currently, which is sounds awful, but I don't think I do. But that's what the impression I get from you're not going anywhere, but you're running.
Right. Right. It's so true.
Yeah. Anyway, I use that. I use that. I said it. I think I said it like last week one day, talking about this podcast too. Like I was sitting at work and I'm like, oh my God, I really need to be working on the podcast, but I'm like at work and I have to be working on work.
Right.
And I just felt like my mind was racing on what I needed to do when I got home, what I needed to read and what I needed to listen to.
Yeah.
And I was
That's
running to standstill.
the low grade systemic stress that our lives nowadays have is that we're not in the moment. We're constantly worried about what's coming next
Right.
and where we
No,
need to
you're
be
so
and how
right
long
about
it's going
that.
to take and this and that. Like they talk about it a lot in motherhood because you're so worried about the rest of your household schedule and where the kids need to be and what da, 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 da. But it goes for everyone. Like that's where I first heard about that.
Right.
The low-grade systemic stress of worrying about what's next.
And that's really, that you're right. That really is everything.
It's a
I know this
problem.
sounds, it is, but I know this sounds stupid, but I love binge watching. And I swear I spend half my time binge watching thinking about what my next binge watch is going to be. Like I always say, if I come out and I don't have a plan after, if I finish one series and I don't have a plan, like I forgot my exit strategy. What do I do now? And what I do then is I watch Friends because I don't know what else to do. You're right, though. That is our society today.
And then we don't do anything well.
No, and you don't live in the moment.
Yeah.
And I mean, think about that at concerts. And I mean, I really try hard not to do this so much, but people sit there with their phones up the entire show and they're not actually watching the show. They're looking at it through their phone so that they can then watch it later.
I try to be very conscious. If there's a moment that I want to take a video or picture of, that I just hope I'm holding the phone in the right place to actually capture it. So I'm not looking. I'm still seeing it with my eyes.
Right. And that's really a big thing that the other reason why I have almost no pictures of Bono face forward. He's always sideways or, just because if he's looking in my direction, I don't want to see that through the phone. I want that. I want to live in that moment.
I have one picture of him that I have framed in my office. I had posted this series of pictures of him from the E&I tour on Instagram. It was like 3 or 4, like right in a row that looked kind of cool together. And someone commented like, "Oh my God, he's looking right at you." I was like, no, it was just, in the vicinity, whatever it is. She's like, "No, go back and look." And I went and scrolled through, like the third picture is like, oh shit.
Right.
Like, I was too busy taking the pictures
to realize. Yeah. What I did was the last 2 shows I saw of E&I before Dublin, and I think it would only work at the E stage, but I had my phone video like recording, and I held it at the rail, so I'm not.
Yes.
I just held it against the rail, just like so it wasn't obstructing my view. It wasn't blatantly obvious that it wasn't obstructing anyone else's view. And I'm like, man, I wish I had thought about. And I have some good pictures. I wish I'd thought about that.
Yeah.
Before, but I didn't. Okay, stay tuned for side B.
Yeah, thanks for listening. We'll maybe in a week or so come up with side B. We'll have some more questions for Bono over Whiskey and Kate. And you need to think of the Lounge Act song.
I do.
From this album. Yeah.
And #Sting, which I have.
#Sting.
Side B. Very much so.
For sure.
#Bruce made it to this one.
We'll get #Sting on side B. For sure.
It's a major #Sting too.
Okay. Thanks for listening. And we'll talk to you next time.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Also, we love hearing from people and chatting with people, and of course, we love talking YouTube. So you can drop us a line on Instagram or Twitter at _gardentarts, or you can even email us at wearethegardentarts@gmail.com. We look forward to hearing from you soon. If you enjoy this podcast, we would love it if you would share it with your other YouTube-loving friends, as well as leave a review for us on whatever platform you use to listen to podcasts. We would really, really love that. May your music be loud and your whiskey be strong. Until next time, cheers.